background, in 1994, our college had only 435 undergraduates and 35 graduate students. It was a very small college, everybody knew everybody's name. Today, we have more than 2,500 undergraduate and graduate students, and we have 80 faculty members. Our college is highly ranked as well. It is ranked 38th among all public universities in the United States, as ranked by the U.S. News and World Report in 2012. This ranking puts us on the top third of all College of Engineering in the country. It's about over 350, and about 200 of them are ranked. Our 4 of our departments were recently ranked by National Research Council as being in the top quartile in the country as well. These departments are computer science and engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and chemical engineering. Among 9 College of Engineering at UC campuses, we were ranked number 4 for mechanical, computer science, and electrical. The first 2 are my alma mater, Berkeley, and UC Santa Barbara. Chemical engineering was ranked number 3. So as you can see, among 9 UC campuses, there are 4 behind us, coupled clearly at the front. With the other 3, we have some we are higher than them, and some they are higher than us. But our faculty members, on the average, supervise about 6 graduate students each, which puts us among the top in the nation. More importantly, we have been emphasizing quality. And Marlan and Rosemary, we are proud that to have your name above the entrances of the degrees buildings. We are proud that you have enabled us to focus on excellence.
Thank you.
We have been using the tagline of "We Engineer Excellence" to brand what we do. We also use Bourns' identity as a way of distinguishing our college. In fact, you have seen our poster, Bourns' identity poster. It is all over the world. I think one of these days, I'm sure it is going to become collector's item. In fact, it is very fitting that we have your portrait in this room, where our students come to get advice from our excellence academic advisors. They come here, they usually have study chairs here, they work together on joint projects. It is a busy place during the school year. Of course, this week is our finals day, and everybody is taking exams or studying. And I'm honored that Marlan and Rosemary's children have joined us. Of course, Linda, Anita, Denise, Gordon, and Jill. We are delighted that you could come. They have all been supporting our college. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. You may also know that Gordon is chair of our Council of Advisors. These advisors, which consists of some 15 distinguished members from industry, government, and academia. They come twice a year to give us advice on what we are doing. We are very pleased that Gordon serves in that capacity and helps our college in planning and strategic directions. With those brief remarks, I would like to ask our Chancellor to invite one of the.
Thank you, Reza. Thank you. Thank you. And to the family, thank you for everybody coming home, right? And, You know, I think Reza did a nice job in summarizing facts. You'd expect that out of an engineer. But I think about life sometimes differently. I think about us at the University of California, Riverside, as a community, as a family, sort of and what is the advantage to our faculty, to our staff, to our students to join us here while they're here and when they leave? And so to have the Bourns family here, to me, is a perfect metaphor, really, for the University of California, Riverside, which is, as Reza pointed out, succeeding in engineering at levels that we've never succeeded in the past. And quite frankly, it's unsatisfactory to Reza, it's unsatisfactory to me. We are on a slope that we will continue to aspire to higher levels of accomplishment. But it is also a place that is supportive of our students to succeed, to our faculty to succeed. You know, why would we invite somebody to join our community, our family, if the idea was to have them not be successful? And so we have for a research university, we have an unusual mix of both challenging as can be, but as supportive, as Reza pointed out, with academic advisors, but really the faculty themselves are the ones who like to push our students and then help them succeed and to do the work. And this family notion doesn't mean we don't have squabbles from time to time. Reza always wants me to give him more money. I tell him his allowance is this, and that's he has to live with. Doesn't mean we have tensions, but the tensions are about our aspirations for the future. And we also talk at this campus a lot about the promise of being an intellectual, an academic, a student, a faculty, a staff member, living the promise. And I can't think of a better gathering today because we have the promise of the past that we're executing, and that's the legacy of the Bourns family. And it's nice to see more than the senior generation here, to see the next generation as well. And I'm sure the other generation will be here, but they're probably in school, right, doing all the things they're supposed to do at this time of year. The promise of the president with our faculty that are here and our staff members who are executing engineering and creating new knowledge in so many fields that are important to the future of America. And then the promise of our students, the future promise, to have our students gathered here today. So to me, promise is executing the past, living the present, but then creating a legacy for the future. And that's where our students come in at the graduate and undergraduate level. So it gives Karen and I a great pleasure to be here to say hello to our friends again, to welcome you home. And perhaps for me, you know, I refer to different parts of the university in different ways. And I find myself more and more when I refer to the engineering, I just refer to it as the Bourns. It's easier for me to say than DCOE. It's easier for me to say all of those words together. And it gives me both comfort and pleasure for me to realize in myself that I just refer to this stuff over here as the Bourns. And I want to credit to the two of you and to the entire family to have that level of recognition on the campus, let alone around the world. So our hats are off to you, and we're so glad that everybody could gather today.
Of course, as I mentioned, Gordon has been helping us in the college, but one thing I would like to add that Gordon also very actively supporting us with our CSET. This is Center for Environmental Research and Technology, which is located in Bourns property. So he helps us in many ways, not just in the college planning, not in CSET, but as you know, he's also very active in community. So I would like to invite Gordon and Kim, you could do us the honor of unveiling the portrait, which was commissioned by the family.
We have an advantage over me, too.
You ready?
Ready.
This was commissioned by the family on the 90th birthday of Marlan and Rosemary last May. Please give them a round of applause. portrait, I'll let Gordon talk about it, displays the humble beginning of Marlan and Rosemary as they had an idea and used that idea, moved forward to create Bourns Incorporated, which is now international corporation. That's what we try to teach our students. And that's why we are pleased to have this portrait here. So as our students walk through these hallways, they look at it, hopefully they're inspired. Gordon?
Very good. Reza, thank you so much. This is a plaque that we're commemorating today, along with the unveiling of the portrait. And in fact, it's titled Beyond Our Wildest Dreams. And that's really the way Mom and Dad look at our company today and really the accomplishments that they have made possible. And this plaque talks about the picture and the vision that they had for the future. Of course, this the garage that they're in is in their home in Altadena, California, right close to Pasadena. And they started their company right after they got married in 1947. And they, in fact, my dad had worked at Caltech during the war on some of the instrumentation for the first atomic bomb. He didn't know at the time what he was working on, but a lot of the ideas for aerospace sensors he felt would have application in the aerospace industry. And they were ultimately devices that would measure the position of the rudder, or the elevator on aircraft, or the altitude of the aircraft, or the angle that it was flying through the air, acceleration. So he had many good ideas, and in fact, when they moved into their house, this is the garage of the house, but after driving across country after their wedding back in July 7th, 1947, with actually my mother's parents. I guess my dad wanted to make sure that they understood that Mom would have a good house to live in. So they drove together back in my mother's parents' car, got to California, and they stayed in California, my mother's parents, for a few days, and then went back home to Michigan. But they had a lot of work to do. And one of the things that they had to do was to paint the bathroom, in fact, many of the rooms. And so my mother said, well, Marlan, why don't you start on the bathroom? And so he got out the paint and brush and roller and started working on it. And a couple hours later, my mother checked up on him, and he had paint all over his hair and all over the floor. And I said, you know, I'm tired of painting. I've got to start a business. So at that point, I think they maybe got someone else to do the rest of the painting. So he started turning his ideas into products in the garage. And their first employee was the next door neighbor, who was a draftsman. So they ultimately hired about 7 or 8 people to work in this garage. But it wasn't just the garage, it was also the kitchen, where they used the oven for high temperature testing and the freezer for low temperature testing, and they had an aspirator that you hook up to a hose, and it uses the Venturi effect to create actually a very good vacuum on a bell jar. They would do their altitude testing on that. And my mother kept the books, and in fact that's one of the items that's in the picture right here. Are the books that the first book that the general ledger that my mother kept right there. My dad had said, well, keep track of everything. So there's some entries in there of hardware store, 57 cents. That was for nuts and bolts that my dad needed. Another entry that is for $17.67, and it's for the first year worth of legal expenses. And that was to file the official record of the company in the local newspaper. So they laughed about that being a year's worth of legal expenses. But in fact, Mom and Dad, I'm going to let you talk about a couple of the things in the picture. The workbench that you have your original Underwood typewriter on, Mom. What was that workbench originally?
It was just a little cabinet, little storage cupboard. And I put the typewriter up on there, and a little Underwood typewriter that we had in our college days, and that's where it all started, right there.
I think you made that cabinet out of a shipping crate.
That's right.
It was out of a shipping crate.
That's right.
And they polished it, varnished it, and so that was my mother's first desk.
Gordon, I'm sorry to interrupt, but perhaps you can explain to our students what a typewriter is?
Oh, that is. These are engineering students. They can figure it out.
No drawers, just the ends and the top.
Yeah, my father was going to promise my mother that he would put some drawers in it, but they never got around to it.
My desk was an old trunk that we put out the insides of it, the ends and top, and it was just the trunk that was my desk. That was it.
And so what did you do on your typewriter, Mom?
Oh, I typed the first catalog.
First catalog, yes.
That's right.
And the price lists, the quotes to the customers, and she did these with carbon paper, right?
Yes, I did.
Now, that's where I probably really have to explain what carbon paper is.
7 copies of it at once.
So what happened if you made a mistake?
I had to erase every of the 7 layers of it. This was to take on our first sales trip to make our first order.
Yes. So you rarely made mistakes, I'm sure.
Oh boy, did I never made mistakes. I must have typed.
So my mother kept the general ledger and also did all of the typing necessary, letters, billings, catalogs, price sheets. The general ledger stops on, I think it's February 28th, 1949. Now, why did you stop doing the general ledger on February 28th, 1949?
Because March 4th, Gordon was born.
I changed everything. So she turned the general ledger over to someone else at that point. And in fact, she also asked Dad, what did you have to do when I was born, Dad?
What was that?
Oh, what did you have to do when I was born? What did Mom tell you you had to do?
I've forgotten, I guess.
You had to move
Change diapers.
No, but I was actually thinking from a company standpoint. I know she told you a lot of things to do when I was born, but you had to move the company out of the garage, didn't
Oh,
you?
that's right. Couldn't
So-
be there anymore.
Yes, because my mother said that she couldn't have me, a baby, and have all of these 7 engineers coming in to use the one bathroom all the time, and using the kitchen floor, and the refrigerator, and the oven, and all the hot and cold testing. So, but in fact, when I was born too, Dad had to call up several of our customers. And why did you have to do that, Mom or Dad?
It's the money.
To get me out of the hospital.
Yeah, they had to get some money to pay for the hospital bills. It was that short, tight purse string that they had, but they didn't realize that these big aerospace companies typically didn't pay for 90 days or 120 days, and on a shoestring budget, that was really very difficult. So back in the back, we have the scooter that Dad made. And Dad, what did you do with the scooter?
Rode around on it.
Yeah, he made it out of a washing machine motor.
Right, with a pedal starter.
Pedal starter and a flashlight for the tail light and bicycle handlebars. But Dad grew up on the farm, and washing machines were gasoline powered.
Right.
And so this was a gasoline washing machine motor that he used for his scooter. And he used that for transportation when he was going around Caltech and Pasadena when he came out in 1947. But, and then a couple of vehicles, an electric powered vehicle, a gasoline vehicle. He was very ahead of his time that he made growing up on the farm in Michigan, on a sheep farm. And Mom grew up on a farm that was pretty close by. So these are the actual cars that he made in the background there. And back here is a Sears Roebuck drill press. That was their first drill press. And a lathe, a Bridgeport lathe. And
Bridgeport milling machine.
Bridgeport milling machine, you're right. I always get that wrong. Bridgeport milling machine, yes.
Get the right one.
So Now, they would, from time to time, have these big aerospace companies come in to do an audit, and they were rather surprised to see where their aerospace sensors were being made. And what kind of equipment.
We drove clear back to Bridgeport, Connecticut to be sure they were working on our milling machine.
Yeah, because they said it was going to be 9 months, I think, for you to get your first Bridgeport milling machine. And they speeded it up by about 4 months because you drove all the way from California to Bridgeport, Connecticut to just ask that they finish that soon.
And we got it on the spot.
Is it?
The order was in, and we got our milling machine at it, and maybe 6 to 8 months for it. We got it right there.
But then, so you went down to San Diego, and how big was your very first order, the big order that you got?
Well, in the picture there, there's a Whitman can box, and we took out and put flocking in the box, and we put little holes in so to drop our little instruments in. And Marlan went to McDonnell Douglas, and he was gone all day long, and I waited in the car in the parking lot. And finally about 4:30 or 5 o'clock here, Marlan was working, coming happy as he could be, was swinging his arms. He opened the door, and he said, "You won't believe it. I got a $17,000 order in this Whitman candy box." That started it.
The Whitman candy box is what Mom's grandmother gave to you as you were just heading out of the driveway after you met at your wedding to come out to California.
On our honeymoon, she gave us a box with candy in it, and it came out with $17,000. Came back with it.
So that was their first sample box. And now this is a picture of them before they were married. And then here are some of the products, the aerospace products. This is a vane potentiometer that I think determined the angle that the angle of attack that the airplane was flying on, and a linear motion potentiometer used for the position of the rudder and the ailerons. Because before that, they just used a rotary potentiometer with a spring on it and a wire. And so they would, when the wire got pulled, that was how they sensed it. Dad said, you know, it'd be a lot easier if you just had something that was a direct connection, the shaft directly to the resistive elements.
I guess we made the first linear motion potentiometer.
Yes. So that's the significance. In fact, this is the blueprint of one of their first products. And you can actually, the artist is Scott Methvin. He's an artist down in Laguna Beach. He spent about 4 or 5 months working on those. Took pictures in the garage with my parents, and so he did such a good job. You can actually read all of the details about this this early patent of my parents. My dad's slide rule, and in fact, I used the slide rule actually in engineering school. And their original catalog. And Mom, what about this yellow catalog? What was interesting about that, or Dad?
Well, we printed our catalog, and we started to think, well, now we're going to take this catalog on our first sales trip. But the only thing was that the catalog came out, was delivered to us, and we were leaving the next day. And they had forgotten to put the drying quality into the ink. So the ink was wet, and it was all over our fingers, hands, and we had to take these catalogs and string them out in our motel room to try and make them dry. To this day, it was 30 years later, and they were still smearing the ink because there was no drying quality in the ink. And we had ink all over our hands, all over the books, and here we tried to sell our products with these messy catalogs with fingerprints all over them. And to this day, it worked though.
You got business. Well, I think that pretty well covers everything. And yes, this was done to commemorate Dad's 90th birthday a couple of years ago. And so we are delighted to be able to unveil the portrait and give you the plaque that tells about it today. Very briefly, and that is that I am so delighted when I come here to the campus very often to see things like the Bourns UC Riverside Space Science and Engineering Day, where there's like 300 or 400 Girl Scouts here and Boy Scouts, and they have Boy Scout Merit Badge Day that Matt Barth has coordinated. Being a Scout leader, he brings, again, about 400 or 500 Boy Scouts here between 2 different Saturdays to earn merit badges. And this is how we attract young students this is the age where you catch their enthusiasm about math and science. So I really commend you, Dean Washington, for your work to spread the good news about excellent careers in math and science, engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon, for introducing the portrait. I knew some parts of it, but today I learned a lot of details that I didn't know before. You know, Marlan and Rosemary kind of are true engineers. You take an idea, you put it in practice, and have an impact. That's basically what that portrait is telling me. Now, Gordon can tell us that the company is multinational. They have manufacturing in the US, in China, in Europe, in South America, all over. They employ about
it's about 4,500 employees.
4,500.
The company will do about 450 million this year in revenue. And all of this is from Mom and Dad's great ideas back in 1947 when they started the company. But yes, we're a third in Europe, a third in North America, a third in Asia. Asia is our fastest growing market. A third is in automotive electronics, a third is in telecommunications, and a third is industrial. So we actually had our best year in history last year because of the good diversification geographically and in the markets.
And they are still in sensors and detection technology. Their products these days go in the cars to control acceleration and stability and all those things. They have nothing to do with Toyota's acceleration.
No recall.
No recall. Their products go in Porsche, Lamborghini, and others. But anyhow, we are delighted with this portrait. It will remain here, and it kind of reminds all our students what we are at this college for. We appreciate. But at this time, I would like all the family to come here and take some pictures, because I know Don is anxious to get them. Then after that, we will walk to the other building where we have another portrait of yours displayed that we can see over there.
With tears in my eyes, I looked at this picture here. And it just seems like yesterday that this has all happened, and I'm so proud, and Marlan is so proud to have this hanging in this wonderful university. To think from where we came in that little garage to where we are today. So thank you, too, for having us here today. It's been a highlight of our life, and I just want to express my appreciation to everybody.